Hello and welcome to the Odious Soul. This video is going to be about our April 2018 boots on the ground search for Forrest Fenn's treasure, going from day 3 to day 6 of our vacation, our search. So to start off, on day 3, we got up nice and early. We had spent day 2 in Yellowstone Park, not searching for the treasure, just taking in the sights and being tourist. And you can check out that YouTube video on my channel, so please check that out. And then on day 3, we started our search again. It was April 24th, it was a Tuesday, and you can check out our day 1 and also my search solution on my YouTube channel as well, so please go back and look at those videos first if you haven't already seen them. So again, Tuesday, we got up early. I was too anxious. I couldn't sleep. Woke up bright and early, drugged Steve out of bed, and said, let's go. So the goal of this day was to go search for the treasure south of the Madison River, west of the Madison Slide, in that area there. That was originally where I thought the treasure was, for my research and my conclusions. So we got out to that location, and it was still pretty snow covered from the day before. Any shaded areas still had snow. There were a lot of snow drifts, so there were times where we ended up being like up to our knees, but we trekked through and made it happen. We started off going up the edge of the hill towards the slide area, tried to stick as close to the hill as we could, snow depending. And one of the things that I noticed right away was how rocky the terrain was. You know, I've heard several other people on Facebook groups and videos talk about, you know, partnering up with other people. Like, how would you know if they didn't, you know, overturn every rock in search? Well, this area, trust me, there is no way you could turn over every single rock. It is nothing but rock. It made walking, hiking, moving from point A to point B more difficult, and it also made the search more difficult. We did use the metal detector, and anything that kind of stood out, we definitely took, you know, more of a look at. There were large rocks, there were tons of small rocks, and one thing we noticed on the side of the hill was there was a ledge, so you had the ground, and then there was a ledge, and we did search the ledge as well, but the ledge looked like it had continuously gone really far down towards the slide. However, over time there had been landslides, so there were areas of that ledge that were now inaccessible. So it made you think, like, if he did put it up on the ledge, did he put it up on the ledge possibly where the landslide happened? If he put it down on the ground, is it now buried under all this rock and dirt and life that has now come down upon it? So it definitely made you question if this could have been where the search was, where the treasure is hidden. So we continued all the way up through the slide. I think it was Barbara from one of the chats, and I'm not sure if it was Chase Chat or one of the online blogs and forums. There was a picture that she had taken of the Omega. She called it the Omega. Basically, it's where a really big chunk of rock came out of the side of the mountain and is actually on the other side of the valley now, part of the Earthquake Lake Visitor Center. I believe it's the Memorial Rock, or the Keystone Rock, I believe I've heard it called. She took a picture of that thinking like, oh, that's the Omega, it's underneath of it, and then she realized how raging the river is there and didn't cross. So we looked underneath there. And again, lots of rocks. The phrase in the poem, if you were brave and in the wood, kept going through my head and my mind, trying to think, okay, where's wood? There was not a lot of forestation, a lot of growth over there, and a lot of the trees that were on that side, you know, were still fairly young. So were they even there when Forrest was there? Along this process, we looked for any down trees. There were definitely a lot of dead trees along that area. Looked like they had gotten washed up by the river, possibly from Earthquake Lake. So we, of course, took the metal detector and checked all those out. A lot of them were too heavy to roll over. One of the things Forrest has said in the past, let's see here. He answered one of Jenny Kyle's questions back in February 2013. Get out into the mountains and turn over a log and see what's there. And so that phrase kept going through my head. So I paid particular attention to logs, dead trees, things like that. And in a more recent article from Business Insider from 2018, he says, I hope parents will take their children camping and hiking in the Rocky Mountains. I hope they will fish, look for fossils, turn rotten logs over to see what's under them, and look for the treasure. So that turn a log over is kind of something that just stayed in the back of my head, and I paid particular attention to this. And we did find some pretty good logs along the way. But nonetheless, so our search, we spent the entire day walking this rocky path, hard on the feet, hard on the ankles. There was no clear, easy path to the slide itself. We really had to kind of meander through it, so it wasn't like a straight shot. And by the time we got to the slide, we kind of asked, how long and how far would Forrest have had to walk to get there? There's no real clear, easy, safe way to cross the river. Because it's such a high rapid area there. Apparently they do kayaking competitions. A gentleman died in 2008, I believe. In my second video, I posted a picture of a cross, like a memorial marker that showed, kind of a tribute to him. It was on the north side of the river there. So the question is, how did Forrest get there? How could Forrest have gotten there? And those are the questions as you search for your treasure in your location, you need to ask yourself. How long would it have taken somebody, if they were doing a straight shot to this point, how long would it have taken them to get here? Is it safe? Is it something that a 79, 80-year-old man could do? Even if somebody is young and in great shape, can they quickly and easily get there? And that's kind of where we kind of got held up was, I didn't have the confidence that it was anywhere near that slide on the south side once we got there, because I experienced getting there and I thought it was just a little too much. Now, some of the things that had me thinking that it was in that area, if we go back to the Thrill of the Chase book, in No Place of the Biddies, Forrest does talk about crossing the street, where the old biddies said, he'd run away from home, but he can't cross the street, kind of a thing. So the only parking area in that is across the street. You have to cross the street in order to get to it. You also have to cross the river to get to it. Also from the chapter Jumpstarting the Learning Curve, he talks about the fire escape slide when he snuck out of class out the window. And of course we were at the Madison slide, so I kind of connected those two. During surviving myself, and I'm going to open up the Thrill of the Chase book here real fast and read this part, okay? It's the very last paragraph of Surviving Myself chapter. Sometimes, when it wasn't too cold, I'd get even with my father for switching me by jumping out of the window by my bed and walking down to the cemetery, which was just a block north of our house. It took guts to go in there when it was dark with no moon. I still remember the sense of accomplishment I felt when I sat on some dead guy's grave marker. I wasn't even afraid. A kid really has time to think in a graveyard. Well, how does that associate with the Madison slide? Of course, during the 1959 earthquake, when the side of the mountain slid into the valley there, many people lost their lives, and a lot of their bodies were not recovered. So technically you could consider this kind of like a cemetery, an unofficial cemetery. There's no grave markers except for the kayaker from 2008. Just one of those things. Is this a place where he went to think? So that was one of the connections I had. Also, last but not least, or actually I'll save that one for later in this. There is one more thing I want to talk about from the Thrill of Chase, but we'll talk about that on the day 5. So we spent the entire day kind of looking at that area, and I kind of really started doubting myself that it was in the area that I originally thought it was. So once we got out of there, once our feet hurt, our ankles were a little sore, knees took a little bit of shock from walking around in that terrain for so long that day. I think we were over there for 5 or 6 hours. I mean, it was a good long day. We didn't pack a lunch, but I packed Cliff Bars. Steve packed a bunch of Tootsie Rolls and other sugary goodness for himself. We headed back out and we started thinking, so what else could he have meant by look quickly, like if you've been wise and found the blaze, look quickly down your quest to cease. And we were thinking that possibly that maybe when you're coming from West Yellowstone on 287, coming from the Hebgen Lake area, possibly as soon as you see the blaze, maybe look quickly down. So we were thinking for day 4, that's where we would go. So before we left that area, we did start checking out the north side of the Madison River by the slide area. There are a bunch of ledges, walkable ledges. They're wide enough to walk on, but there are some trees there. There's some down trees in that area. So we did take a moment to go over there and kind of snoop around. There is an easy access point to park right on the west side of the Earthquake Lake. So we parked in there and kind of walked the ledges along that. And, we saw a father with probably looked like a 4-year-old daughter, maybe a 1.5-year-old daughter in a backpack. We saw them fishing at the edge of Earthquake Lake there. So kind of populated. So again, you question, is this some place that Fenn would, plot to throw his bones? Obviously on the ledges, I'm sure a lot of people don't go there. You can't fish off of them. All you can really do is kind of hang out there and sit and stare at the slide. So I'm not sure how frequented they are. We did see an occasional can or some trash there, but it's right off the highway. The highway's up here and you kind of got a slope and then you have a ledge. So it could just be trash from the highway. But then again, we of course didn't find anything there. So we headed back to West Yellowstone for the night. We stayed at the Holiday Inn there all week. Nice hotel. They have an indoor pool and a hot tub, which by your 3rd, 4th, 5th day of searching in boots on the ground, the hot tub comes in really handy. All right, so on day 4, Wednesday the 25th, we started out heading west on 287 from the West Yellowstone area, and we stopped as soon as we could see the Madison Slide. Okay, as soon as we saw it, we pulled into the nearest parking space and started searching around the area. There were a lot of great trees. One of the interesting things is you can kind of see the trees that used to be submerged in Earthquake Lake. Remember? The end is ever drawing nigh, so Earthquake Lake is constantly getting lower and lower as time goes on. And, these trees seem a lot more preserved, so they'll probably be there longer, but the trees that are farther up on the hills that have fallen over or are now downed, they tend to rot a lot more. So it's definitely not feasible to turn them over because they're just going to fall apart in your hands. And this is where we really relied heavily on the metal detector. But we searched every area that we could possibly get to in one way or another. A couple times we're wondering, would this route have been safe for Forrest to travel? It wasn't super hard, but at the same time, we were definitely questioning that, keeping that in the back of our head. So from there, we found a little space on the right-hand side of 287 further down. It was this little, beautiful little, almost looked like a swimming hole area where the water was like crystal blue and you could see into it. It was just absolutely stunning. And there were these 2 geese there that didn't like us invading their little private love nest. But a waterfall, kind of a cascading stream, was coming down from the mountain. It was Rock Creek, and it was just so beautiful and tranquil back there. We tried exploring up there as much as we could. The higher we went up, the more snow cover there was, so we decided it wasn't feasible for us to go any farther up there. However, we weren't really sure, I wasn't really feeling it as a Fenn spot. It was definitely a Shannon spot. I definitely liked it, but we didn't really think of it as a Fenn spot. Really no area to fish up there. Just water coming down into this pool at the bottom. And again, this looked like a pool that was probably created after the earthquake. because there were some dead trees standing in the water. So as a fly fisherman, those things are definitely obstacles when you're trying to fly fish. So it wasn't, and we didn't really see any fish in there either. So just got to point that out. But we did search that, and it was absolutely beautiful. We also researched the area between 287 and the river. So west of the slide, we rewalked all of that. I made Steve rewalk it all just to see if we had missed something the first day when we had searched that area. Just wanted to double check, wanted to make sure we got the metal detector out there. Since we already had a couple of days of boots on the ground, we were looking for different things now, and again, no luck. That area is also very rocky, hard to walk on, and the more days you're walking on this, the more tiresome walking on it actually felt. So that was our day 4. Day 5. We researched a couple areas around the lake, and we also searched the wooded area at the west end of the lake by the parking lot. We had checked it out one night when we were coming home. I believe it was the day, the third day that we were there, the second day of real searching, when we were walking on the ledges by the slide on the north face of the river. But we went back there, and there was a whole lot of like a little mini forest, wooded area down by the lake, and the snow cover on day 3 made it kind of hard to figure out how we could get down there. It looked like the snow was probably about 4 or 5 feet deep in this little like curved out area, so we weren't going to risk trying to go through the snow. So we did find a way around it and got it down to those trees. The treed area itself didn't have a lot of snow around it, so once we got there, we were fine. And there were so many good spots there. Beautiful views of Earthquake Lake and of the valley there. I mean, just gorgeous place. And I found this one huge down tree that had so many holes and space underneath of it, and spent a lot of time there digging snow out from it and with the metal detector, and alas, no treasure, but was really excited about that area and did spend a good bit of time searching that area looking for it. So we also went back to our original spot south of the Madison to search the wooded area again. I really wanted to concentrate on areas with trees. We kind of headed a little bit farther west than we had originally done on day 3. So, and I was kicking myself because I was like, this is a whole lot more funny than up closer to the slide. It was easier to walk. The rocks were different. The rocks were like a bigger gray rock. A lot of them were covered in like a moss. Lots of pine trees. It was amazing. So what's really cool about this day was when we were checking it out, we actually found this little island in the Madison River that we were able to get to. Now, if we go back to the thrill of the chase, why am I excited about an island? Because I had considered this before, but didn't know how we would get to an island. I am not a girl who's going to walk through raging rivers. Not going to do it. So the last chapter of Golden Moor and the thrill of the chase goes like this. And this is right after he publishes the poem in this book. So, there are also subtle clues sprinkled in the stories. It was vital that nobody share my knowledge about the location of the treasure. 2 people can keep a secret if one of them is dead. I dreamed that the other night that I had been reincarnated as Captain Kidd and went to Gardner's Island looking for the treasure. It scared me so badly, I was jarred awake and don't remember whether I found it or not. So this statement right after the treasure made me think about islands. There are lots of islands, like little land masses along in the Madison River, and I was very conscious about them, and I was looking for ones with wood. So we found one that had wood, and fortunately we were able to get to it. There were lots of little beaver dams, and we found one that looks a little bit more packed than others, and we were able to cross over top of the beaver dam to this little island. And I mean, again, like I remember hearing a story about Fenn saying about sitting on, the edge of the river under a tree and writing a love note to Peggy. And I was thinking this would be a place where Fenn would sit along the river and write that letter to Peggy. We searched it. There was, in the middle of the island, there was this huge pile of rocks. I mean, not like a pile of rocks, but a huge row of big, massive rocks. So I took the metal detector to that. And the big thing was those rocks were really covered with grass. Fortunately, it was the beginning of spring, so it's dead grass. But it just really made you think about, even if he sat this treasure on top of this pile of rocks, how nature can kind of come in and make it even harder for you to find it. So again, a perspective, something to make you think, and giving you obstacles to try to find ways around. So after going back to town, we got cleaned up, and we decided to treat ourselves. It was Thursday, so we went to the IMAX theater there in West Yellowstone, and we saw Avengers Infinity Stone. It was nice to sit, relax, and enjoy something and take my mind off the treasure hunt. But then day 6 came, Friday, April 27th. It was our last day to go searching for this treasure. If we were going to find it, this was a day we had to find it. So what do? Well, we went back and we searched areas that, to me, were very Fenny, and areas that I felt we had the greatest chance of finding that treasure. So we went back to the wooded area on the south side of the Madison, where the island was, with the Beaver Dams and stuff. And we spent a lot of time researching that area. We made sure we checked under every tree. We made sure we checked around every rock. We looked for rock piles. We, any kind of area that was covered in snow, we made sure we did the metal detecting with. Any area that was covered in grass, we metal detected with. We just spent so much time researching that area, because to me, if it was going to be anywhere there, that was where it was going to be. So really cool things we saw along the way. Not only did we see a ton of beaver dams, small dams that kind of, blocked up this little furrowway and kept the river flowing very slow on that side. We found like 2 beaver dens, which was kind of cool. We also found anthills. I didn't realize there were massive anthills in Montana, but they were literally like sometimes 2 and 3 feet off the ground. I mean, it was insane. We found tons of bones. With the metal detector, we found tons of tin cans in that area. So apparently some people can get to that area and have gotten to that area. Most of the tin cans were old. They were very rusty and old looking. But we just kept searching. Once we left the south side of the river, we headed back to our original engagement spot on the north side there on the edges. I just wanted to sit back up on that ledge one more time, and also just walk around the area more to think, was there anything here, any safe place where Fenn could throw his bones and hide a treasure that nobody would find. We left that area covered in ticks. I think Steve had 6 ticks on him. I had 2 or 3 on me, and I was like, yeah, what a great place to ask me to marry you. So, and sitting up on that ledge looking over, Reynolds Pass, the Madison River, the Madison Valley, that whole area, just kind of coming to terms with the fact that we didn't find the treasure, and just accepting the fact that we had this amazing trip. We grew as a couple. I learned a lot about the area, and I really learned to appreciate being in a place with no cell phone reception, and just got back to that place that I think Fenn wants us all to get back to, and that's just nature and simplicity in the world. Reminding ourselves that we are more than a corporate culture. We're more than business and our jobs, and having that responsibility of paying the bills and living the American dream, but getting out there and just being one with nature and our earth. So, great moment, the bittersweet part of the Forrest Fenn treasure hunt. So that night, we went back to West Yellowstone, got cleaned up. We ate Mexican food off of a school bus in the middle of town, which was really good. I recommend that place. At least on a nice day when you can sit outside on their picnic tables. But that was our trip. We came home on Saturday, and I didn't want to come home. I wanted to stay out there. I didn't care if I ever searched for Forrest Fenn's treasure again, but I didn't want to come back to reality. I wanted to stay in that wonderful natural element. I literally reminded myself of it as a kid. When I was a kid, I grew up on a 27-acre plot of land. Most of it was fields that a farmer, tended to. But my grandfather was the man that had his own like dump in the backyard. Like he'd take the bulldozer and dig a hole, and we just throw trash in there. When the trash pile got too high, he'd set it on fire, and we'd keep filling, and then he would fill it up, and he would dig a new hole. And he had a bunch of old cars from like the 40s and 50s just out in the hedgerow, and I would go out there exploring and looking for stuff. And I remember finding bugs and finding the way that like the water would run through the hedgerow, and it would look like a little stream, and I would imagine the ants had their own little world. And I felt like the little girl in me that used to do that used to create forts in the thorn bushes. A part of her came back out on this trip, and I'm really hoping to make sure that she stays out and is a part of my life more. And that I have a very busy job. I'm a district manager for a company, and I oversee a ton of people, and my life is very stressful. So I'm going to make sure that I incorporate that little girl in my world more often. So I have a whole lot more videos planned, so please make sure you like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching. I do have so much more research and thought behind so many different things, and I can't wait to share. I just really wanted to get out my trip with you first, and that way we can go on and we can build on this Forrest Fenn's treasure hunt. I do not have a plan to go back out. I believe there is a missing piece to this that I have not yet figured out. And until I figure it out, I will not plan another trip. I live in Maryland, and Montana, Wyoming, Colorado, New Mexico, they're all super far away from me. So if I'm going to go out there and invest my money in this treasure hunt, I want to make sure I know where it is. So my first boots on the ground showed me what I need to know before I'm willing and able to do that. So please stay tuned. Thank you so much for the support already. You guys have been amazing, and I'll see you soon.